Okay, hello and welcome. And in this video, we'll be learning about the next tool of AutoCAD. Technically, not a tool, we can say more of like a drawing management tool or drawing management command that is known as dimensions. Now, we are now continuing in the series in which we are currently in the location or in the position where we are learning how to annotate or how to make our drawing more presentable, more readable, etc. Now, already we have learned how to use layers and how to use different techniques in order to control the drawing. Also, we have learned how to use annotation in order to annotate the drawing like the way we did it here. So today I'll be showing you how to create dimensions. Now, once I explain you how to create dimension, I want you to practice this. Okay, so this is in the beginning itself, I'm telling you what kind of practice diagram I want you to create. So you can create almost all the practice diagram from the previous videos if you want to, or if you have already created the practice diagram and if you have already saved it, just try to make sure to give the dimensions to them. Okay, and also try to put all the dimension in one layer so that if I turn off the layer for dimensions, you can see the dimensions are clean. Okay, so this is how you can manage dimensions. So in this video, we'll be learning how to create dimensions for our designs, okay, and how to do it in a most efficient and a proper way. So let's start with that. So I'm starting with a new file. Now, first of all, what are different types of dimensions we can create in AutoCAD? So we can create linear dimensions. Okay, we can create a line dimension. We can create radius related dimensions, also diameter. I'm not going to be covering everything in detail, okay, but yeah, all the things which I'm writing, everything will be covered in great detail. So we can also create angular dimensions, and this is what is majorly required. Now, you don't even need to remember the command for dimensions. Okay, for dimension, the command is D. D will be common for all the dimensions. Then D, Li is for linear. Okay, because the first two words of the command. So similarly, D, Al is for aligned. Then D, Ra is for radius. Then D, Di is for diameter. Then D, An is for angular. So you can see here in the spelling of angular, we have An, and here also we have An. Here we have Di, and here also we have Di. So remembering the command or the name of the command is not very critical or not very difficult. If you know you want to create linear dimension, you just need to type D and then first two alphabets of linear dimension. Okay. Now, DLI can be done with single or double enter. Okay. So you can either use a single enter like the way we normally do it, or you can use a double enter. Okay. So in DLI as well as DAL, we can either use a single or a double enter, and this is very simple to use. This is not really very difficult to use. This is very simple. Now, along with that, I'll also show you dimension continue and baseline. So this will help you to make designs in a faster way or dimension in a faster way. Now, for dimension continue, the command will be DCO. Okay, as we thought of. And for baseline, the command will be DBA. Okay, so this is how we can use this set of commands to create different type of dimensions. So let's start with the first one, that is learning how to create a linear dimension. Now let's say I have a line here, a slant line. Okay, we can also have two circles here. Okay, very simple geometry. Now for this, we don't know the measurement. I want to see the measurement. So I can type DLI enter. Okay, then it is asking me to specify the first point, then the second point. And now what I'm getting is a linear dimension. So what is the meaning of linear dimension? That means the 72.36, whatever the value is over here, is a horizontal distance between this point and this point. Okay, so it is not the actual distance. This is the horizontal distance. So if I create a line of 72.36 horizontally from here, then it is going to reach somewhere over here. It's not going to touch the point here. So this is horizontally this much. Similarly, if I do again DLI enter, and if I select the two center points again, I can also create a dimension which is vertically telling how much distance away this particular circles are. Okay, so either I can create horizontal dimensions or I can create vertical dimensions. Okay, again we can do the same thing for the line. DLI enter, I can select this endpoint and this endpoint. Now the best part is if you have a line, you can press DLI double enter. Okay, if you have any object, you can press double enter and then you can simply select the object. You will get the dimensions automatically. So again I'm doing DLI double enter, and you can see again I'm getting a dimension here. Okay, so very simple to use, very easy to use, and this is how quickly and efficiently you can work inside AutoCAD. Okay, or you can create a diagrams which will have some linear dimension. Now coming to the next topic, that is align dimensions. First I'm deleting the two linear dimensions. So DAL is the command for align dimension. Now again, if I click on this center point and this center point, what I'm getting is the aligned dimension between the two center points. Okay, so technically this is the actual length. Previously we were getting the horizontal or the vertical distance, but this is now the actual length. Similarly, if I press DAL double enter, okay, I can select the line and I can get the actual length of the line as well. So this is known as align dimension. Coming to the next one, that is radius. Okay, so DRA. Now from here the things are very simple. DRA enter, and if I select the circle, I'll get the radius of that circle. Similarly, if I want to see the diameter, the command is DDI. Then if I select the circle, I'll get the diameter. So this is how you can create a radius and a diameter dimension. Okay. Now coming to the next one, that is angle. Okay, so that is for DAN. So if I press DAN and if I select the two geometries, I'll get the angle. Okay, as simple as that. So if you want to see or check the angle, or if you want to create angular dimensions, in that case you can type DAN and you will get the angle. Okay, as simple as that. So this is how you can create angular dimensions. Okay, so I hope you understood how to use linear dimension, align dimension, radius dimension, diameter dimension, and angular dimension. Now coming to the next two very important parts, that is continuous and baseline dimension. Now technically they are very again easy to use, not really difficult. Okay, but that will help you a lot. For example, here let's say I have multiple circles. So again I'm creating circles randomly. I'm not defining any particular location to it, and I'm creating the copy of the entire group. So I'm creating a copy of this entire group. Now I'm creating a dimension here, a linear dimension from this center to this center. Okay, similarly again I'm creating a linear dimension from this center to this center. Now let's say what I want dimension like this, continuously one after another. Okay, like this way. So for that we have a command called dimension continue. For that we can type DCO, that is dimension continue, and by default it might start creating dimensions, but here it is not doing that for my good luck. So here it is asking me to select the dimension. Okay, but sometime it can happen that, suppose I'll delete the dimension, I'll again create a dimension because I know why it's going to happen. If I type DCO, you can see it is automatically creating a continuous dimension. It might be from the correct dimension, it might not be from the correct dimension. So as soon as you go to DCO, you have to click on select. Okay, you have to click on select, and you have to select this dimension either from this side if your objects are on this side, or on this side if your objects are on this side. Okay, so I'll select it here, and now I can see continuous dimensions are coming, and I can place it wherever I want to. So this will help me a lot in order to create continuous dimension. For example, this is a drawing which we have already completed in the past. Okay, and you can see there are drawings where I have created some continuous dimension. For example, here, as you can see, this 10, 30, 23, 17, and 18. This is all a part of continuous dimension. So if I go here and if I type DCO and if I select this, then I can create a continuous dimension, and very easily I can define the dimensions to this object. So this is how easy it is to create continuous dimensions. Okay, and this will be very helpful in future in order to define dimensions to multiple objects. Similarly, if I press DBA, that's for baseline. So this is now giving me a baseline dimension, but not from a correct location. So what I can do, again I can go to select. This time I'll select this side if the objects are on this side. Okay, so I'm going to select on the left side if the objects are there on the right side. So I'll select the left side here, and now this is what I'm getting as a baseline dimension. So all the dimensions are starting from the single object. Now there are settings using which we can also control the height and control various things about dimension, but this is how basically you can create dimension. This also works for angular dimensions. So for example, if you have some angular lines and if you want to create some continuous or baseline dimension, for example here, let's say I have an angle. Then I'll go for DCO, that is continuous. I can simply select the endpoint of this line, the endpoint of this line, and this line to get a continuous dimension very easily. Okay. Now dimension by default always remains readable. Okay, so it doesn't go in the direction where it is not readable. It always remains readable. Now let's continue with the most important thing, that is dimension style. Now whenever we create a dimension in this particular software, this is how it's going to look like. I'll just activate ortho. Okay, so this is known as the arrow of the dimension. This is the text of the dimension, and this is how the dimension is going to look. I want to customize the way it looks. I don't want this comma over here. What I want here is I want a point, decimal point. I want to change the style of the text and various other things, how it's look. So what I can do is I can press D enter. That will take me to dimension style. To manage dimension, I can go for dimension style. Dimension style, and that can be activated by pressing D enter. Now it's a very big command particularly, but we are not going to go in much detail, but I'll just show you all the things which are necessary. So if I press D enter, this is how the dimension style dialog box is going to look like. Now I can click on new in order to create a new dimension style for myself, okay, because normally I don't really modify the one which is already present in the software. We have already learned text style. It is very similar to that. So I'll click on new, then I'll give it a name. For example, CAD cube dim style. So that is my dimension style. Okay, so I'll click on continue, and here you can see the dimension style dialog box will appear. There are many things to toggle or to change, okay, but few things are very simple to understand. For example, lines will control how the dimension line and how the extension line is going to look. For example, here in lines, if I want to change the color of the dimension line, this is how the dimension line color will be changed. I'll just zoom into this part so that you can clearly see. Okay, so if I change the color from here to green, you can see the color over here of the dimension line is changing. Similarly, I can change the color, or I can even suppress the dimension lines if I don't want to have it. Same goes with extension line. Okay, so if you don't want extension lines, you can remove that. You can also control how much it is going up. For example, here this value is 1.25. So if you want to increase or decrease that value, you can definitely change that thing. This value is 0.625. So if you want to increase or decrease this value, you can definitely change that thing as well. Okay, so this is how you can control dimension line. But normally what I do is I change the size of the arrow. You can even change the style of the arrow. So if I don't want this kind of arrow, I want a different style of arrow, I can do this from here. By default, arrow size is 2.5. Let's say I'm thinking the arrow is quite big, so I want a smaller one. So what I can do is I can just simply change it to 1.5. So arrow will become smaller. Similarly, if you want to increase the arrow size, you can also do that. Okay. Similarly, if I go to text, I can change the style of the text. Okay. So if I click on text style, here in front of standard, if I click on these 3 dots, I'll just zoom in so that you can see. So if I click on these 3 dots, it will launch a text style dialog box, which we have already seen. And here I can click on new, let's say dim. I'll just create a new style with a new font. Suppose I'll click on apply and close. And now if I choose the style from here, you can see the fonts are changing here, right? So similarly, I can change the color of the text. I want a different color to my text. Okay, I can also change the background color for my text if I want any background color. Okay, or I can keep it to none. I can also change the text height. Normally, I prefer to keep the text height same as the arrow height. So if the arrow sizes I have kept to 1.5, I'll keep it text also to 1.5. Now I want my text to be centered, so I'll choose centered in both the conditions. So you can see now my text is centered, and now I want all my text to be horizontal. So I'll choose horizontal over here. So it is always easy to read. Okay, so all these things we can control. We can also control whether I should get a comma or a period, okay, or a point particularly. So it is 14.11 or 14,11. That is also you can control. If you want to put a suffix like mm, so you can also do that over here. So it's very simple to control that. And from here you can also change the units to feet and inches. So if you don't want the measurement in mm, you want it in feet and inches, you can do that from here. Okay. So all those things can be controlled from here. So normally whenever I start with AutoCAD, I do few changes, like I change the size of the arrow, I change the size of the text, I also change the style of the text, and also I change the type of unit I want, okay, or type of point I want. So here, after changing all these things, I can click on OK. I can set this as a current style and I can close it. Now if I create a dimension here, now as you can notice the difference between the two dimensions, here I am getting a proper value like 23.86 rather than comma. Okay, here the arrows are quite smaller based on my drawing size. So all those things can be easily controlled and managed. Okay, so this is what we called as dimension style. Now in this video we have already learned how to create dimensions, okay, and how to manage the dimension. Okay, so what I want you to do is, for the practice, I have already assigned you the practice diagram. Just for a quick take, in the practice you have to give dimension to all the previous diagrams which you have already created if you have saved it. Otherwise what you can also do is you can give, like, let's say you can create this diagram and you can give all the dimensions to this diagram particularly, and make sure you have everything in layers. Okay, everything in layers, so that you create a layer for your object, you should have a layer for your dimensions. If you don't want your dimension, you can just simply turn it off. Okay, so that is very important. Okay, so you should know layers. For that, you can see the previous videos for learning layers. You should also know text, so that you can write this kind of information. For example, here I have written rectangular and ortho, polar and ortho. All those things you can also write, or you can also create. So all this information, technically now you are prepared to create this level of information. Okay, so you can do that now in AutoCAD. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great day ahead.